Hello, this is Gelardi. I'm back with another tutorial. This time it's a progressive house track, or well, at least a mainstream progressive house track, very melodic, kind of uplifting. It's a remix of Galantis' Runaway. Um, I think I could spend about an hour just ranting about how the remix pack were. There were no MIDI, and the vocals were split up in left and right. Who even does that? So it was almost an atrocity seeing that remix pack, but I'm still alive. I'm here, um, and I made this remix that I think turned out pretty decent. So I made some completely new chords for the track. So basically, the only thing that's linked to the original Runaway is the vocals. So basically, everything around it, the whole instrumental, is completely new. So yeah, well, I can try and play it for you so you can actually get an idea of the track. So here we go. And there you have it. The whole track, or at least the radio edit. I never got around making like a real original mix or extended or whatever, because it didn't really do that well. I mean, download wise, view wise, whatever. So I wasn't really bothered making a longer version. So, but I think it turned out pretty decent. Um, So yeah, let's dig into this. Well, let's get around what I started with, and that was the chords. Of course, I had the vocals, and I knew what key they were in. Or well, I could hear what key they were in. So I just started jamming a bit, making some new chords, because the original MIDI wasn't with them, and I tried recreating the ones, and I recreated the ones from the original, but it just didn't sound that good, because there's something to do with the whole synth in the original that just sounds good with the chords and everything. So, but anyway, I just couldn't get it to sound good without being, a total rip-off of the original, and it's not much of a remix if it just sounds like the original. So I decided to make some completely new chords, and they sounded like this when I made them. Oh, by the way, if the cursor doesn't really follow the sound, it's because there's quite a lot of latency, as I can't run my usual ASIO sound card output when I'm recording and everything. So the cursor is a bit off. And I guess we'll just have to do. But anyway, I think these chords sound pretty great. Here they are more plain without, as you can see, I added some small counter chords here, and I have them without here because it wasn't measured with this when I made the top lead and everything, so it sounds a bit weird with the top lead and the super saw mid here. But anyway, to the next step, I made the top lead here, as you hear here, and it's a very, very, very powerful, energetic kind of sound, and it has quite a lot of room in the mix as well. So it really, it is the key element of the track. And then there is the chords. It's basically just like the piano chopped up into a pattern that I made. Sounds like this. And then you have the bass, and the bass actually just follows the exact same pattern here. It just, of course, the root notes, like the bass notes of it, and sounds like this. And then there is a sub for this as well. And then the vocals and a shit ton of effects. Like, wow, a proper shit ton of effects. So, yeah. I'll go a bit more into detail, and then I have an ARP, just a very, very simple ARP for the breakdown, and it just keeps going like that over and over. So, even though it seems a bit messy when you look at it, like the whole thing here, if I open everything, it is quite simple, the project as a whole, because it's not that many different sounds and stuff. It's quite basic. I mean, and then there is just like some transitions that are a bit more advanced and everything, but I mean, like the elements are quite simple. It's just the way they're put together that makes it sound good. So, let's get into the piano. For the piano I have two layers, as you can see. One of them is Nexus and the other is True Pianos. This one is True Pianos and it's the higher layer. It's two layer, I have a deep layer and a high layer. And the Nexus one is the deep layer, and this is the high layer, the True Pianos one. as you can hear, a quite strong piano, quite bright as well. And for this it's just true piano, diamond, warm. Okay. And then this is quite important, the way you do velocity threshold, velocity floor, and keyboard dynamics. And I also have a bit of release on there. It's to make the keys like more compressed sounding. I also have a brick roll compressor on the bus itself, but I'll get into that in a bit. Then I have some EQing, of course. This is the higher layer, so it's boosted like crazy in the high end and cut pretty high. Then I have S1 for stereo width, and since it's the higher layer, it has quite a lot of width, and this is something I really like to do. Have two layers. One of them is deeper, a thicker sounding synth or instrument or whatever, and that has a really strong deep sound, and I want to keep that center. And then I have a thinner but more sparkly sound, maybe more interesting as well in the texture of it, and I make that extremely wide and put on top. That's what I really like to do. And Simplon is just for, filtering purposes. Then here is the Arts Acoustic Reverb, just pretty standard. Always remember to low cut your reverb as well, and only 4 seconds on the decay. Here we have the Nexus. It's the grand piano. I like this one quite a lot, actually. It has a very mellow, strong, deep sound. And then it looks a bit like boobs I painted. So yeah, boosted the low end, mid-high. Exact same reverb settings. I don't really know why I didn't make the reverb on the bus itself, so I didn't have to have 2 instances. But this is just the way I've made it, apparently. Filtering purposes again. Again, I don't really know why. Oh yeah, I do know why. Again, I could have done this on the bus, but I actually have a transition over here, as you can see, where it does different stuff. So that's why I have Simplon here and a Simplon in here. On the bus itself, for both, I have this, and I'll get into this. It's a really fucked up thing, actually, but it's pretty cool. I have a compressor, or I don't know if this is a limiter actually, but anyway, it's a brick wall compression kind of thing, which basically just compresses the shit out of it. And this is because it's the main element in the breakdown is the piano. There's nothing that really supports it in the breakdown, and you really need it to kind of, fill the space, the piano, and it really didn't before I compressed it like this. Another Simplon? I don't really know what that's for. Anyway, for the top, oh, I forgot to play the low here actually. And this was the Nexus, the deeper layer of the two, and you can hear the high one again. And together. Whoops. So they sound pretty good together. For the top, I have 2 silents, I think. And it's pretty much just presets actually that I modified a bit to suit my needs. Oh yeah, it's actually this layer that is basically the whole top. The other layer is just there for when it's filtered down, basically, in the build-up. and over here in this part before the drop. Because the second layer here, this one just sounds a bit, yeah, it sounds a bit shitty when it's filtered down, basically. So you really wanted to, oh well, I wanted to layer something that sounded good while filtered down, and then I didn't really care what it sounded like when it's not. Just, you know, to make up for the shitty sound of this one in the breakdown. And you can try and listen to this here. Yeah, that sounds not so good. It sounds pretty shit. So it has a nice pitch bend though, like a nice portamento, and it carries that over as well. So that's pretty neat. But it sounds pretty good when it's filtered down, and that was the whole point of this layer. And you can hear it has like a really nice soft kind of sound to it compared, and it's just, as you can hear, it's just a bit a pitch. What the fuck? It's just a bit too harsh for the breakdown, kind of. And it really helped to get this way more soft layer in. And the two together sound pretty decent. I think this top is really nicely made. I've basically just EQ'd separately, because they are different layers. As you can see, this one for the breakdown, well, the breakdown purposes, is a bit lower than the other one. And basically all the processing is done on the bus itself for both of them. And we have again, reverb, very short actually, but it's extremely loud, as you can see down here. But it's a very short reverb. And it's basically just because that's what the mix allowed me to do. You always have to like do whatever the mix allows you to do. And I had already made the mid, the bass, and the sub, and everything, and I could just hear what I was able to do without it getting muddy, and this was the best result. You could otherwise, you know, turn it down and then make a higher decay, but this was the best solution for this mix. Then I have a Mark EQ, and it gives the whole high end of it. The airband and air gain is completely unrivaled when it comes to like the really sparkliness. There is no other VST that can kind of make this sound. It's amazing how it really gives that sparkle in the highs. I really like to use it. I use it more and more. And it's for all kind of styles as well. Then I have multiband dynamics here. I really like this thing. It's only in Ableton though, so I can't use it in FL Studio or whatever. But in Ableton I really love it. What I basically do always is just leave it as it is, and then I boost the mid quite a lot, and then the highs a little bit. And you can see that's what I've done here as well. Then this is just sidechain. For sidechaining, remember your ratio for whatever you're doing. This is like the top, so you don't want a very high ratio. So 4.67 sounds about right. Filtering. And here again we have S1 at 1.6, so it's extremely wide. And you want that for your top lead. You want your top lead to be like really wide and really get out on the speakers, you know. Here we have the mid. It's a high, mid, low layer. Whoops, this should be here. So this is like the mid layer, and this was the low, and this was the high. I can try and play it again. And there you can hear like all the 3 layers, and you can hear I just go down from the high to the mid to the low. And together, all combined, they sound like this. So as you can hear, like really, really full sounding super saw without it's very powerful, but yet it does not have a lot of high end, which is exactly what I wanted because of the extremely really, really filling top line here. So for the high, it's silence again. Preset I tweaked a bit. Just saw a square apparently. Oh, this is actually a Nexus for the mid layer here. Detuned lead 7. And for the low layer, again, silent 1, some kind of preset square source all the way around. Again, for the top it was, I can also just show these patches. Source. This one I think is something different. No, it's also source. So, yeah. And again, nothing fancy. Only on the high layer of the mid, I have stereo separation, and only at 1.35. Again, you don't want to make your lower stuff wide. There's no need for that. Always make the high stuff wide, and it will sound way better in your mix. And on the mid boss itself, for all the mid layers, a bit of EQing, a little bit of boost for the high end, cut at the high. Reverb, as you can hear as well, very, very loud again, and not very long. And also the highs here is cut quite a lot. This is quite important. As you can see, the highs of the reverb. It is again to make room for the top lead. Again, we have some multi-band dynamics. I actually cut some of the lows, again mids, a little bit of high, sidechain. Again, ratio, this is a higher ratio than the top lead, and that is because it is lower, and thus it interferes more with the kick and the bass. So you want a higher setting. Again, filtering purposes. Then we have the bass. The bass is basically just a product of Omicide distortion plugin. It's 2 layers, and they sound absolutely like crap without this on. You can try and play here. Or I can just go to here, actually, where the whole bass unfolds. So that sounds like absolute shite. Let's try this with it on. Yep, that's what that's what one plugin can do. Omicide here, you can just see how good it is with this guy right here. It is an absolutely amazing plugin. For this, I used Porridge and Smarty, and I just played around with like the bands here. This is like the hertz where you want it to cut, and then you can play around with. Basically, what you do here, you pick one down here. I've never used these. I've always used the standard ones. And then you pick one here, and then you go here to the frequency, play around with that until it sounds right. You can hear it sounds weird. And then you go to shape here, and then you have to find like a point where, again, it doesn't sound muddy. And then you play around. Oh, wait, you don't do this. Then you go to gain, and you play around with that, put it at 20 or something. And then you can adjust these again. And then in the end, you play with this, the body here, and see what sounds good. And then you can add another one. For this, you can see I have this at 238 Hertz. The first filter, or whatever it's called. And then the second one I have up in the highs at 3.3 kilohertz. And as you can see, it has quite a lot of effect compared to the low one. The low one is basically no effect, while this one is like 50 decibels effect. But yeah. Sidechain, again, ratio almost at infinite. It's at 14. Again, remember the mid was 5, I think, and the top was 4. You want to increase it as you go down in hertz. Sausage fattener, multi-band dynamics again. Cut a bit highs this time, boosted a bit low. Fab filter proc just to low cut and to high cut. Filtering purposes. And then the sub is very simple. I can try listen. I usually just use a saw, but I think I used the square in this one. Yeah, definitely I used the square. You can hear it quite clearly. Yep, there it is. A pulse square. And of course a saw. High cut. Wow, I boosted quite a lot actually here. And again, sidechain, quite high settings here in ratio. You could put this at infinite. I usually have it at infinite actually, but just do whatever sounds good. The vocals I did. This is actually a good tip. For the vocals, I have cut here. It's not this, but the tip is, if you have the Fab Filter bundle, right? You have Fab Filter Timeless. You might not have used it a lot, but it's a delay plugin, I think. But it also has some chorus, distortion, and quite a lot of other weird stuff. But in the chorus section, there is a preset called Big Chorus O, and when you pick it, this delay time will be something like 0.002 or something. But for that, it would be something like this. You put it over to 0, and the same over here. Put this to 0 as well. And then this will probably be full 0, whatever. And you scroll this down to whatever suits. You can just listen. And it will sound like extremely wide and clean for some reason. It's a really, really nice chorus-y effect, I guess. But it just helps clean up vocals really, really nicely. I know a lot of my producer friends who use this as well after they heard it from me. And they've had like really amazing results with it. And this track is actually quite fun because the vocals sound like shit in this project, but normally this really, really works well. Little bit of reverb. Effects, it's just your usual suspects, random samples that sound good. Nicky riser, like the Nicky Romero riser, squarey kind of sound. This is an absolute must if you make electro house or progressive house, the mainstream kinds. I was so lucky that I have like a friend who made a sample of it, because normally I would have to make it in silence every time. But now I have like a sample of it, and it's just so much easier to do with. Just another simple stuff. Downlifter, just white noise downlifter. 2 different rides. Sweep up. And this is my secret ingredient. A clap effects I've made myself. It is like a really, really hard impact effect that just makes everything sound huge, basically. It's something I made quite a while ago, and I still use a sample of it in nearly everything. It basically just, it sounds like people clap along, kinda. And it just sounds amazing. It's kind of like, mezzo, arty kind of style. And then I have the arp, it's just a simple arp. I think some Q pulse, H pulse, and a saw, and a pulse, and a saw. Just very simple, you can see low decay. Just a simple arp. Lots of reverb. Side chain, and not even boosting high end, but just cutting. So very, very, very simple arp. And then I have the mezzo effects here. It's actually quite funky. And it's actually just a massive preset, the first one, and the second one is a bass silence, two silences actually, that is, pitch bend. And I think there is some filtering as well, but not too sure. Anyway, and I actually made a quite nice transition here with the piano. As you can see, it has a weird here. I promise to go back to this. Basically, in Ableton, there is no dry-wet knob for a plugin, like there is in FL, for instance, where you have, for every plugin, you have to the right of it, you have like a dry-wet knob, and you can adjust how much of the plugin's effect you want to hear. Basically exactly like I showed with the vocal here, with the timeless here. You have wet level and dry level. You don't have that in Ableton if it's not inbuilt in the plugin itself, like you saw here. If you don't have that, you're screwed. But I really wanted to make like I guess you can call it like artistic EQing. I used the phone preset here. I really like it. I think I adjusted it a little bit with these two here. But basically, I just wanted it to automate the dry wetness of this plugin. And to do that, I have to do all of this shit. And I really can't remember how I did it. But I looked up a tutorial on YouTube and it showed me, and it ended up working. So. But it was a lot of hassle just to make a freaking dry wet knob. So, but anyway, I think it sounds pretty good, and I automated the dry wet level of the reverb on the top level, and then I also made it like the filter as well, as well as a dry wet level of this. So, what it sounds like is this. Oh, this is actually, shouldn't do like this. Oh yeah, I should actually. And together with the effects, it sounds like this. And what you will notice is that from the break, which ends here, it actually doesn't start a bar later. You can see there is a small gap here, like this little gap here. Oops. Why doesn't it work? As you can see, you have 4 bars here, and there is a gap here. So it was really hard calculating all of this and this over here helped a lot. So that's why it may sound a bit weird, like tempo-wise and everything. But it was necessary to keep like the tempo in place and everything, and keep the rhythm. But that's all due to the vocal being messed up. I really don't know why, but that's just the way it was. And I tried like changing it and everything, but it just went to shit, everything, when I started doing that. So, but anyway, like if you want to do like stuff like this here, it's a really nice idea, like to adjust the dry wet of a EQ plugin. That's a really, really cool effect. I've only done it a few times, but it really sounds cool, I think, when you play around with that. Anyway, I think, for the master chain, high cut, low cut, TP bass lane to mono. Oh, it's actually too high. I always go with 177 now. And it's basically just to mono your low end, your low frequencies. Then I have a volume here. So it's basically just, to make the drop sound more epic, basically. So I add quite a lot of volume at the drop. And it's put before the mastering chain, which is quite important because the mastering chain has a lot of compression on it. So just because it says -6.2 doesn't mean it's actually -6.2. It's a lot closer to the 0 here. But it really, really helps to like automate the volume so it hits at the drop and just give your drop some more epicness. The weaker you make like the stuff before, the more epic it will sound in the drop. That's important to remember. Although, of course, you don't want it to sound too weak before, but it's definitely something to think about. Then there is this is the first compressor. Then there is another one here, and SSL here, and a little EQ to boost a little high end, and sausage fender with 0 and 0. It's just to catch peaks, and it's also at 0 here. So yeah, that's basically everything I can teach you about this project, I guess. For the snare roll, actually, there is a little thing here. For the snare roll, I actually, even though it looks like a sample here, it's actually a sample I made myself, just very quickly. It was just faster to export. I think it's Control J. That's a keyboard shortcut to like make it to a sample, a MIDI clip. But anyway, it's filtered from the low end here. It's very important when you make like snare rolls. You can just listen to it. Always remember to low cut here, like filter it with a low filter. It's very, very, very important. And here you have like the pitch bend of it, and it goes to 6 first and then to 24 semitones. So yeah, there you have it basically. And also just before it, I have a reversed sample. I basically just took this and I reversed it, and I think I actually cut like this part of it off, and then just use this part, or something like that. So you have that before, that reverse, Oh, that reminds me, I actually didn't show this. Here, just before the drop, there is also... the drop actually kicks in like later. It should kick in like this. As you can see, I have actually just moved this. Like as so. I mean, it's not because I have moved it like this. I have just... Basically, I've just cut off a chord. But it's the same chord that goes again here, so... And it just sounded good this way, so... And it's because of the vocals that have like... a shout or something. This here. And it was placed here. So I figured I might as well make use of it, and sounds like this. And what really makes this work is the reverse I have here of the top. As you can hear here, it's basically just a reverse here. And I made this from this note right here. It's basically just this note where I took it like this, took it way out of the project, right over here, and then I played this note and recorded it, and then I reversed it. So, and then I played around with it a little bit, but pretty simple stuff. Also, if you wonder if this is like completely new stuff, it's basically just this part right here. As you can see, I have just cut this off. Boom, and there you have it, completely matched here. So yeah, I think that's all I can show about this project, at least. This time it's not a trance tutorial, it's actually a progressive house tutorial, so maybe you learned something new from this. I know I definitely learned like a few new tips when I produced this myself. So maybe you have as well, listening to me speak about this for quite a long time now. But anyway, oh, and if you like this track, you can actually get it for free right now. It's on my SoundCloud, and you can just download it for free. So if I'll have like a link in the description. So, but yeah, that's all for now, I guess. I hope to do more in the future. I think I will do like a glitch hop tutorial in a short while, actually. But I'll look more into that later. Also, I have a new project called Gingerbread. Yeah, Gingerbread. And it's where I produce like glitch hop, dubstep, electro, all that kind of stuff. It's a lot inspired by, you know, Monster Cat, the label, and you should definitely check that out if you like my progressive house as well. So that's because it's a style I will be doing more and more, I guess. I think it's really, really fun to make. So it's definitely something I will be doing more of, and probably also make some tutorials of in the future. Anyway, that's all for me for now. I think I've taken quite a while as well now. But yeah, that's all for me. See you.